Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 359. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is with me, and I've got some information on that in a second. But I've got to introduce a special guest with us as well. Nolan King is here as well, making his long-awaited return to in-person coverage of the MMA Roadshow. Done some little hits here and there, but now we're talking about in-person in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, we get to have a conversation face-to-face now. It's not like none of that Zoom nonsense where only one person can talk at a time, all that stuff. So it's good to be here. It means the world's moving in the right direction, too, a little bit, huh?
It is, right? Like, you and I have kind of been in, like, opposite things, right? Because I was thinking about, like, I haven't covered a Bellator event in over 2 years, and obviously you haven't really done UFC because Bellator's been in your backyard the same way that the UFC's been in ours. So it's been, like, your de facto exclusive beat for the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been weird, man. You know, it's been great. Obviously a great experience for me. You know, I think Junkie now is a little bit more comfortable with me running some shows by myself, stuff like that. But definitely want to get back in the mix with this because this is the UFC.
Yeah, no doubt.
The big show. So.
Big show, big pay-per-view. We'll definitely talk about that UFC 271. Cold Coffee, I promised you some information.
Yeah, what's this?
You know, I was like, we haven't really – I feel like we haven't been on the road together in a while. Like, I've gone on the road and you've missed an event. Mm-hmm. You've gone on the road and I've missed an event.
Yeah, that's what you were saying the other night.
Yeah. I went back and looked.
Okay.
Do you know when the last time we were on the road together was?
Even though Vegas were technically on the road.
Well, okay. I did –
We're on the road.
On the piece of it, yeah. We did find out. Well, it didn't find out, but it dawned on me when I figured out that we hadn't been on the road together since UFC 263, which was June of last year. It's been 8 months.
Has it really?
Since we've been on the road together.
That's crazy.
The MMA Roadshow has been fantastic events in Las Vegas, but not together on the road. So this is I don't want to say historic, but it's a good feel to have it all here. It's been a while, but yes, that was the other information. So it was making me feel kind of, when I figured that out, I thought, wow, we're the MMA Roadshow and we don't go on the road together. I'm like, what a terrible, terrible thing we are. But then it dawned on me that the UFC Apex is on El Camino Road, which of course is
the road.
So the UFC Apex is on the road. So we are the MMA Roadshow, even when we're at home, because we're on El Camino at the UFC Apex. And while we're talking about a little bit of that El Camino, some of that Spanish language, as I saw you take a big swig over there. This week's episode brought to you by La Adalita Tequila. La Adalita Tequila is also the official sponsor of CFFC, the official tequila of Cage Fury Fighting Championships. And as you know, the fine folks over there sent us over a variety of beverages to taste. Last week, of course, we had the
saddle up.
We had the Duke Extra Añejo, and the Duke kicked our ass. I'm not gonna lie.
The Duke fucked us up.
That
was ridiculous.
Kicked our ass. It is really, really good. I highly recommend. This week, we're going with the La Adalita Tequila Single Estate Reposado Tequila. Single Estate. In the heart of Los Altos de Jalisco. So obviously single estate. That's kind of like, normally you take these tequilas and they just grab some plants from over here and some plants from over there.
Mix. Yeah.
No, not this. Single estate, all one. And we're kind of getting going on this. It's a little bit more of a traditional tequila flavor, so a little bit of that harshness that you associate with it. But let me say, it's still smooth. Yeah, I mean, this is about as good as it comes. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It says, I actually kind of like the name of it. I didn't know what the name meant when I first heard it, but it's actually kind of cool. It says, La Adalita became the symbol of the commitment of the female soldier that fought in the revolution for the rights of all Mexican people. Her strength, bravery, and courage endure to this day. In the spirit of Adalita, this tequila is distilled by hand the old-fashioned way in small copper pot stills circa 1920s Cuba. Single estate from the purest agave, hand-selected and harvested in the rich red soils of our plantations in the heart of the highlands of Jalisco. So I think it's cool because they're associating themselves with mixed martial arts, but it's like female warriors, and so I'm like, man, what a cool. I think they're trying to come up with like some ad campaigns and stuff that might actually feature some of maybe some UFC athletes and some female MMA fighters. So pretty cool. So shout out to La Adalita for delivering again.
Now, have you told them about Juliana Miller yet? Have you pitched them on any?
I have not pitched them on Juliana Miller yet, but yes, Juliana Miller is a bit of a psycho. I like in a good way though, but in a psycho. We did meet the Ultimate Fighter 30 cast. We'll be rolling out all those videos. She is there are some characters on there, and Juliana. I'm just gonna say it right now. Once you see her interview, I think you'll agree. there's no way she's not at the center of some insane drama this year on The Ultimate Fighter 30. Like, she is just going to piss some people off.
Oh, I hope so. She's like the ultimate, like when reality shows were kind of at their peak, there'd always be the villain on the season.
That's her.
She gives that major vibes, you know, and
That's
it's
her.
great. It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are, The Ultimate Fighter. I get it. Totally understand. Not saying you got to turn in your hardcore card if you're not going to watch it, but I'm going to watch it. I'll watch everything. I will say, after we talked to the cast earlier this week before we came down to Houston, there's some characters on both sides of it, the heavyweights as well. So I'm actually looking forward to it.
You can't release the changes you've already seen, or are those? I guess did that come out? The change,
sir.
Is that already letting stuff out?
You're not supposed to be talking about this.
I didn't say any names. I'm just saying things might change up. I was not there and was not told that. I can't say anything.
Thank you, for the breaking news because Cold Coffee is already like talking about stuff we're not supposed to be talking about.
No, fuck it. Let's go for it.
There was a cast change, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Melissa Odessa's out and Hannah Guy's in.
There you go.
Boom.
Wow, I wasn't going to say names, but
Breaking news on the MMA Roadshow.
there you go.
Yeah. So
That's
the cast
why
that
you
was
tune
announced
in.
is
That's
changing.
why you tune in.
That's why you tune in. Thank you, Lita, for just loosening the strings.
I mean, if we
a
could do
little
it,
bit.
who did we do that before? Was it what the fuck was it? EA. Remember EA Sports? We got in trouble with EA Sports.
Yeah, they got mad
That
at
was
us.
awesome.
They
like legit tried to reach out and were yelling at the UFC that we released game details.
Yeah.
And the whole big thing was like, oh, here, come watch this EA display. And we're like, oh, man, this is so awesome. I really hope the commentary of this gets to stay in. And they were like, that's what you weren't supposed to talk about.
we were supposed to stay on one. They were like, just stay on this one mode. We were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we went into the other mode, and then you could hear like Snoop Dogg all through it and all this other shit, and it was like they didn't want that knowledge out there. I was like, well,
got in trouble for that.
Yeah. I think this was a little less of a leak because I think it happened before the filming started. So
Yeah.
I think it's.
I didn't even get a day because it happened right away.
But what we learned from that situation is that EA Sports is a big fan of the MMA
Yes.
Roadshow.
Yeah.
They obviously watch.
They must
the
have
show.
some spies or something,
Yeah,
huh?
I mean,
Boots on the ground.
I wish they would hop on the Patreon. Give me a little
Just saying, patreon.com/MMA Roadshow, EA Sports.
just to double check to make sure we're not releasing information on
Yeah.
games that you're not showing us.
Maybe you release them over there. Maybe you want to be able to listen. All right, guys, let's talk about UFC 271. Media Day was today. You guys covered it from on site. Of course, I am here in Houston, but I covered it from my hotel room. I am not an official part of the MMA Junkie coverage this week. I am here as
Roadshow coverage.
I'm roadshow coverage. Yeah, I didn't want to miss out on this event, so I'm kind of here of
Roadshow.
my own effort. But I'll be at the press conference tomorrow, the weigh-ins, and of course at the fights as well. So Media Day was today. Main event, of course, Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker. Heavily anticipated main event. It's interesting, right? Because the first time this fight happened, man, I just was like, this is the best fight you can make right now. This is unbelievable, right? Stadium show, down in that part of the world, amazing. Still think it's an amazing fight, especially what Robert Whitaker has done, right? But I will admit, I feel like my level of excitement is a little bit less than it was the first time around, and yet I feel kind of bad for that because, Robert Whitaker, if you believe what you hear, and I have no reason not to. I mean, I think he's been pretty open and honest about it, right? Like, Robert Whitaker has had this interesting career arc where, like, he came in, that dude hated talking to the media. Like, it was terrible at interviews, did not like talking to us at all. Gained comfort with it and started to have a little fun. I think people started to really like the guy and see who he was. But around the time of that Adesanya fight, you could really feel the tension and the stress and everything that was around him. And the fight happened. Certainly did not go his way. I think we all thought he fought a little bit emotional. He fought a little bit crazy, a little bit out of character for what we thought it would take to beat Israel Adesanya. Take some time away, restructures everything, admits he kind of reevaluated everything, and now he's back. Puts a nice win streak together, and now he's back. I do believe this is a more competitive fight than the first time around, but I'm still struggling to get over just how good Israel Adesanya looked in that first one. And I think maybe that's tempering my enthusiasm. Not for the fight. I'm excited for the fight, but just for the idea that Robert has what it takes to win the fight. And I felt like maybe I'm kind of being a little bit unfair to him, but I just that it's tough to get that first fight out.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's interesting, right? Because I think Rob's looked so good over the 15 rounds or so. I think it was 15 rounds that he won against Gastelum, against Jared Cannonier, against who's the other one? I'm drawing a blank. Whoever the Darren Till, yeah.
And what 13 rounds we'll say because Cannonier was a 3-rounder, but still 13 rounds. True.
Yeah, so I mean he's looked phenomenal over that, but it's just a matter of like, is he outside of the Jan fight where he was just kind of outsized, outmuscled? It was. I don't think you can really put that into the whole mix when it comes to him fighting at 185. Like, outside of that, I mean, Izzy's looked pretty flawless, and so I think it was less of, maybe it wasn't Whitaker's best performance, but I don't think you can necessarily say it was a fluke or an outlier, or there's nothing that screams to me like, hey, this guy is going to be the one that storms back and, shows that was just really some off-the-grid outlier of a performance. Maybe it'll be closer, maybe it'll last longer, but I think it's ultimately going to have the same outcome.
That's what I can't get away from. Like, I don't think it's going to be quite as one-sided. I do think that Rob Whitaker is going to fight a little bit smarter, a little bit more intelligently, but it's exactly what you said. So I started, there's a new article that's going to come out tomorrow, like the reason, not that we've done them before, like reasons to watch, whatever, but they've asked me to start doing them, and so I did one tomorrow, and I was talking about, obviously the main event is a big reason to watch this event, but I was talking about that as well because, if you look at Adesanya, you can be like, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, I mean, Jan Blachowicz showed us what the blueprint is, right? And it's like, okay, hold on. Jan is way bigger, and let's not forget that was in a small cage too, right? So, I mean, those two factors together, like, I don't think Rob Whitaker can look at Jan and be like, well, I just have to do that, and I'll win the fight, right? I mean, I do think that I think that any path to victory for Rob Whitaker, like, has to involve grappling, right? Like, you just can't. You can't outstrike Israel Adesanya.
No,
right?
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I think even Izzy's efforts off his back in the Jan fight, like, I think it was really about how much stronger and bigger Jan was. I mean, I don't even remember what Izzy weighed in at, but it was not even the light heavyweight.
Yeah, it was under.
It was like 202 or something. So I think that was maybe a little bit of a calculated miscalculation on his part. And, I mean, this is, like I said, a 185-pound fight. Rob is probably a strong, powerful guy, but there's been a lot of strong, powerful guys that Izzy's beaten. There's been Paulo Costa. There's been Marvin Vettori. There's been, some of the more muscular, big, scary dudes in that division have not been able to do that. So I think Rob's great. He's a well-rounded martial artist. I think it's pretty clear-cut that outside of Israel Adesanya, he's probably the best in the world, but that's not going to help him on Saturday,
Boy, that's what I think. And I hate to say, like, I like Rob Whitaker a lot, and it just feels like he's in a really good place, as we said, like, mentally. And I mean, it's such a nice guy and fun to be around. And like I said, he used to hate doing the media. Now he's kind of joking about stuff and laughing. And I thought his demeanor today was incredible. But I just kind of feel like you said that he's the second best middleweight in the world right now. And I don't know what you do with that. After he lost last time. Again, I think his life was structured a little bit different at that time, and so I don't think it was just the result of the loss that, like, caused him to want to walk away from the sport for a little while. But I do wonder what will happen if he comes up short here. Where does he go from there? Like, I don't think he's cutting to 170, and I don't think he's going up. You know what I mean? Like,
did he start at 170 in the UFC?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point in his career, though, I don't think that would be very.
So I
mean, maybe it would be one of those sad things we see somebody try, like, Cody. Oh, I'm going to try flyweight towards the end, like something like crazy like that, where he really depletes himself. But yeah, I mean, it's a really tough position to be in when you have such a dominant champion to be the second best.
It sucks. And just to be specific, he has not fought. He made his middleweight debut in 2014, so he's not fought in welterweight in 7 years.
Yeah, it's one of those weird. Him and Wonder Boy is one of those weird fights. Like, looking back at the time, we were like, okay, up and coming Australian. Wonder Boy's got some heat behind him. Now it's like, wow, that's a really weird fight that happened. Yeah.
All right, so what do you make of Israel Adesanya? Right, Israel Adesanya. First of all, boy, the attention to detail that this guy has I think the one thing that really stood out to me today, and it just goes to show you the level of that he thinks of things, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Conor McGregor in his peak in that way, where he's like, I brought back the high top fade, like I brought back the hairstyle that I had when I beat him the first time, so that when he steps in there, there'll be deja vu. I was like, that's some next level shit right there.
Yeah, it's an angle of thinking that I don't think, like, I think when we go into one of those press conferences, I ask a question, I have an idea maybe of what people are going to say, and he seems to always be one of the few fighters that can kind of take it a left turn, some angle that I haven't thought of. Right. And he's so hyper aware. Even when I asked him, I think Jose had gone, Oscar had gone, and I had kind of only asked 2 questions where they asked 4. He's as soon as I said thank you, he said easy. And it was like he went through his brain like I had asked less questions after just answering what, I mean? I was just like, shit. So respect, I think he's obviously a great figure for the UFC to put up there on that podium and have him talk. I mean, he's intriguing. Like, I don't know how long he talked for. He was probably one of the longest scrums today.
Yeah, I think it was over 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's smooth.
Yeah, it's like, it's not painful at all. It's awesome.
He, it's funny too, because I feel like that star quality is he definitely has that it factor, and obviously he's talking about his new contract and all that. It sounds like the UFC financially invested him a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like it's don't know what it was, but maybe around the Paulo Costa fight, around the Jan fight. I don't. I feel like he lost a little bit of likability. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, he didn't speak to me a little bit. Like, it was like he was getting to be too big of a... I feel like maybe that loss did something where it was like, hold on, man. This isn't like the whole world is given to you and it's just your little oyster to do whatever you want to it. I feel like it's back now. Like, I feel like more of a sincerity and a passion. I don't know. He struck me as... I
think you're right. Yeah. Well, he even kind of mentioned it as such. He's like, after he addressed that loss, he dealt with it and then he got over it, because he talked about how, I thought it was interesting when he brought up about Whitaker and how he could empathize about going to the dark places when he lost and stuff. Like, that part of Izzy, I mean, that was just, it was very heartfelt and it was just very like I like stuff like that, because Izzy lately has been so like, oh, these guys are nowhere, no one's on my level, these guys don't understand, they don't think like me, they don't move like me, they don't this. But for him to then sort of like dial it back a little bit and be like, I empathize with that. I understand what, after that loss, like what that does to you. He's like, after Jan, I had to deal with it and then it was gone and I moved on, and I just thought that was interesting, but it did take into the account that fight did do something to him. He did process that emotional whatever, for some it was probably a roller coaster. For him, maybe it was a small little bump, a small little hill that he'd just get over, but you could definitely tell that fight did do something to him. But I liked that the respect that he showed, even though that these guys, I think everybody could say there's no love lost. If neither one of them saw each other again, I think they'd be fine and they wouldn't be like, oh man, I really wish I would have squashed all the beef. But it was just good to see that, there was two combatants that had a history, but there was mutual respect. Like, nobody's going into any cheap just call-outs, cheap bullshit, Like, it seems like there's a lot of respect, but maybe the Izzy before that loss would have been more inclined to keep pushing down and just say, like, y'all saw how silly I made him look. He could have laid into him really, really hard, and I didn't get that feel like he did that in today. So I liked the more reserved, the more introspective. But like you said, he was sharp as attack. I mean, like, he was bringing up shit that it was just, when he said the thing about the hair, I was like, man,
I know, right?
He fucking took it to another level. I mean, like, it's like one thing, like, I know I'm going to get into this guy's head, but I can do it in a way that I never have to say a fucking word.
Yep.
I'm going to go in there and he's going to see my hair and that's going to just bring something back internally.
I like that.
So I mean, that's bringing it to a different level. That's the whole psychological warfare, but on a different level. Some guys might need to come out and like, I'm going to threaten his family. I'm going to threaten what I'm going to do to him. And others are just like, I'm going to wear a piece of clothing that reminds you of your worst night of your life or something, It's just like, it's a whole nother level. But by doing it, I mean, but it felt really, it was just really, really nice to hear what he was saying today. And I think anybody watching it couldn't possibly sit back and just like, man, there's Izzy again, just talking this stuff and giving a point. I think that was what maybe some of the point before is that I think he started reaching the point where he was becoming a little off-putting at times.
I agree.
Because when he first came out on the scene, it wasn't that way. And then we've seen this many times when these guys get in and they start winning, they become champions or they start making more money than they've ever made before. The personality changes a little bit, and then we all run into a point where we're like, wow, this isn't the person that I was first became endeared to. We all have to like, well, I'm still going to ride and die. He's still my boy, but something sort of changes. So it was nice to see this version of Izzy again. And I always appreciate this type of fighter more than the guy that just wants to go out there and get, cheap thrills or just cheap, chuckles from the peanut gallery by saying something silly or whatever. But I thought Izzy's interview today was fantastic. I thought a lot of the people up there today were very, very thoughtful and just there were some that were very, very short, but Izzy was one of the ones that he just proved that he's a step above, even when it comes to interviews and even with like the stuff that he was able to think and talk. I mean, it was a fantastic. I mean,
did you go with him in your picks as well?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I like Whitaker.
I like Whitaker a lot too.
Izzy's
I'd
just
love to see
firing.
Actually, to be honest with you, I'd like to see Whitaker win. Like, I think he's a great champion, and I think like he's
certainly
very deserving.
Yeah, wouldn't be sad if
I'm just
Izzy
having trouble
lost.
seeing it. I'm just having trouble seeing it.
Izzy's just firing on all cylinders, man. It's one of those things, like, he just hasn't given anybody a reason to think that he's diminished or that he's, there's injury in there or there's something that's, even when he took time to we hear a lot of the guys actually point out, like what their coaches and the sacrifices and the stuff that they do. I thought that was another hard-hitting point where he was talking about, and he was giving praise to his coaches and what they had all given up. He's like,
they don't know when they get back home.
Eugene would want nothing more to be with his family, and here are these guys willing to sign off on 6 months away from their family. I think it's moments like that when you can actually realize that. How can you not internalize the sacrifice that your team is making? Then it's like, you better damn well make sure that you're giving your 110%, because you have people that are putting their lives on hold.
I didn't know that Eugene Behrman had just had a newborn kid.
I didn't either.
That's pretty amazing. As a father, I can tell you to leave a newborn kid and not be able to know for sure. Like, it's hard enough when you're like, oh, it's fight week and I got to leave on Tuesday and I'll be back on Sunday. But it's like, I'm leaving on Tuesday and I'll be back sometime.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think, honestly, like, over the past year, you're talking about how, I've spent a lot of time with Bellator. I can't believe the dedication that these coaches have. We always talk about the fighters, the camps and stuff, but, like, in terms of the coaches having to do this every single weekend, flying to some city to corner somebody, maybe even fly to a different city to corner somebody the next night, and then also spending that much time with the guys in the gym. It's like a fighter's life nonstop, like a fight week every week. So I think there's a lot of underappreciated coaches that put some serious dedication.
They're gone,
especially the ones that like the big major gyms. Like, I think when I was talking to Nixick, we were talking to Safe, we were talking to Bob today. All these cats. A lot of them, their stable of fighters is just getting enormous. Like, some of them, if they didn't ever pull back, they would never go home. Yep. Most of these big places are getting that big. They would never go home.
Deserve a shout out, man.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
All right, main event. Like I said, it's a big fight. I'm not trying to say, oh, this pay-per-view. It's a big fight. I'm just, me personally, I'm having trouble seeing Rob Whitaker get it done, and I hate to say that because I have a lot of respect for Rob. Co-main event, of course. How fun is the co-main event in terms of, like, there's literally nothing to break down. There's no analysis that needs to be done. Like, hey, what kind of game plan do you think is going to be brought in here? Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa. This, to me, I mean, obviously, when most Derek Lewis fights seem like they're going to be pretty fun, but when you put him up against, basically, I don't want to say a carbon copy, but a guy that's got that same style where it's knock out or be knocked out, it's just fun, right? I mean, yeah, I love high level grappling and intricate level submission exchanges, but like, this is just two dudes that can go in there and try to knock each other's block off.
I love it, man. It's comedy at the comedy hour at the media day today as well, so I think that was kind of expected, and definitely things sort of went off the rails. I think a lot of cuppy, a lot of shoey references,
a lot of cuppy and shoey references,
sexual innuendo by Derek Lewis, and
Derek Lewis having an extra workout with his wife, getting the Colby Covington workout plan, I believe it's called, the extra cardio in the bedroom.
Yep. So that was it's funny, man. They're kind of similar in that they're so comedic in the way that they fight. You know somebody's going down, and sometimes it can be sloppy, but they win a lot of times. And then I was thinking in my head about the square-off this Friday that's going to happen. Like, Derek's square-off is always so aggressive.
Right.
Like, he has to be separated.
Right.
And Ty does that thing where he leans back. So I'm very interested to see how that meshes. You know what I mean? Like,
it will be interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right, because Derek, he wants to put the hands up and get right in your face.
Yeah.
And Ty leans back and does like that old school boxing.
Yeah.
But I wonder, because didn't Ty say that he had a gift for him? I wonder if Ty comes out with that gift and throws the whole thing off.
Yeah, do you know what that was? He was talking about? I know that everybody calls him Shuivasa, but is it an actual thing
I
that
didn't
he's
know that
making?
either. Yeah, he said, I got a gift for him with Shuivasa. I wonder, has he got like his own custom shoe line?
Yeah, I mean, that was
or something. But I think he's going to bring a gift, and I think it's going to throw Derek will probably come out and they'll just something if he has
slap it out of his hand.
Wouldn't that be something?
I will ask you. I mean, obviously, look. Somebody's getting knocked out. I just think listen. I know Derek Lewis and Czech Congo happened at one. Yeah, I'm knocking on wood. I don't think this is actual real wood.
No, it isn't, because earlier I set someone and the fucker cracked. I was like,
I was like, you're breaking furniture. But on this synthetic wood, I'm knocking right now.
Yeah.
I just don't see the score. But what I did want to ask you, because I heard a lot of people saying, man, I know Derek's the hometown guy or whatever, but really, Derek Brunson, Jared Cannonier, that's the #1 contender fight. That should have been the co-main event. But I don't know, right? Like, Derek Lewis in the co-main event, right? Like, it's going to be a knockout.
Like,
it's Houston.
On.
You give him the honor, and then whatever happens, like, the crowd's going to be buzzing going into the main event, right? Like, so that's what you're trying to do, is set up. So I don't think it's any disrespect to Brunson or Cannonier, but I did see a couple people kind of throw that out there, like, oh, why'd you put this in the co-main event? To me, perfect card placement.
Yeah, I always talk about it like it's totally in the Nolan's MMA promotion. It would be totally merit based. Sure, Jared Cannonier, Derek Brunson would be that co-main event slot. But from an entertainment and a fan perspective, in terms of excitement, I mean, Lewis versus Tuivasa is something that I have circled twice on that card. So you got to put it in that slot.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, Derek in H-Town is just a recipe for getting the arena buzzing right before the main event.
I saw that Derek explained it a little bit too. I think maybe people missed this last time, and I totally understand, man. There's a lot of content to watch, but I heard a lot of people saying, "Why is Derek fighting in Houston again?" Right? Because he kind of admitted last time the pressure got to him, man. Fighting in Houston was tough. But if you remember, and I didn't know it ahead of the fight, but he explained it after the fight,
right,
where it was, you know, listen, it wasn't just that it was, you know, fighting in Houston. It was the anniversary of when I got out of jail, like the exact day. You know what I mean? It was just like, it seemed like it was written in the stars that this was my day to be a UFC champion on the day of the anniversary that I walked out. And so that's what got into his head. So I saw a lot of people going, "Oh, I can't believe he's fighting Houston again. This is going to be a bad thing." I think if you're hinging your pick or your bet or your thoughts on the fight on that, hey, man, I think Derek's probably going to have another off night because he's fighting Houston again. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's okay fighting Houston. It was just that one specific day.
Yeah, I think it was that. And also, like, I just think if you look at the matchup that he had, that was just a tough one in general.
True.
You know, it wasn't necessarily like, oh, he dropped the ball. It was somebody he was supposed to beat. Like,
right.
That was stylistically kind of a nightmare. So, you know, I think he kind of talks about how he doesn't necessarily love fighting here, but he kind of likes it and goes back and forth. I think there's pros and cons for everyone. You know, they when they're in the moment, I don't think they necessarily love it, but then when they get the crowd pop or they win or they look back on it, you know, years to come, they'll be like, that was
a
cool.
special moment. That was
cool.
a big one.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think the crowd is going to be buzzing either way because, like you said, obviously they're going to be cheering for Derek Lewis. Yeah. But if Ty knocks him out, it's still going to be a knockout, which they're going to hate to see their guy get knocked out. But you know it's going to be some insane knockout because Derek's going to have been swinging at the same time. And then everybody loves the shoey, man. Like, I know that would suck if it's your guy that got knocked out, but I don't know that I've seen a reaction in the history of the UFC like happens when Ty does a shoey and like the whole crowd is like lifting up shoes and boots, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
And it's escalated every time that he's done it, so I'm actually very genuinely interested to see how Houston takes it if that occurs.
I tell you what's funny, man, is I started thinking about this the other day, but obviously Ty thinks a little bit different than we do. Like, I would have like a person whose official job is to give me a shoe and a beer so that I trust him, because like, especially you're in enemy territory, like you don't know what's going on. But I think he was asked about that and he's just like, excites me even more.
Yeah, that was a great line. That was a
No!
great line.
I would have a guy. That's my shoey guy right there. Yeah. That's the only guy I get a shoey from, because you don't know what's happening in them shoes. But it is. I will say, obviously, we're big fans of Derek Lewis. He's always been great to the road show. He recommended the barbecue spot that we went and had food with earlier tonight.
Hit that spot.
Shout out Derek Lewis and Camp Bob Perez. That was a fantastic recommendation. But people love Tai Tuivasa, so it's just going to be it's like an old school fight, but it's fun. All right, we kind of touched on Derek Brunson, Jared Cannonier. Interesting, right? I mean, because I thought Sean Strickland last week had a chance to maybe steal some of the shine from this fight. I don't think he did. I think he even admits that. I don't think there's much debate of that, if he's even saying, like, I don't know. I guess, you know, the idea is if Brunson wins here and it's boring, does Adesanya not want to face Brunson again? You know, if Cannonier wins, then even Sean Strickland said if Cannonier wins, you know, he definitely deserves it because he's been tearing through the division. The only guy he's lost to, of course, is Robert Whitaker. So I don't know. I guess I want to get your take on this, Nolan. Are you seeing this as clear-cut number one contender fight, winner of this fight for the title, or are you saying it's a potential number one contender fight, and we got to wait and see how it plays out before we determine what's going on?
I would say if Jared Cannonier wins, it's 100%, like 100%. If Derek Brunson wins, I'll put it at like 90. You know, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is rematch. You know, I always feel like the promotion's less inclined to do a rematch unless it's between some, you know, two superstars or two really bitter rivals, or there was some controversy. The second one was, you know, I do understand. I was a little surprised by the reaction today, but I do understand the points people are making about Derek's comments saying, you know, if he wins this, regardless of any scenario that plays out, he's going to fight 2 more times and that's it. You know, so if he were to win this one and then win the belt, he would retire as champion. Which, you know, I don't know if that twists the UFC's arm to a point where they're like,
excite them, right?
No, I mean, you're going to have a kind of a champion that might be hard to promote to begin with, and then he's going to vacate and retire. Like, they probably don't want to put themselves in that slot.
Unless he sees that champion contract and he goes, "Did I say retire?" Yeah. You know, I was just joking with them media guys, having a little fun. Yeah. So it's funny. So I think, like I said, I was working from the hotel room today. I think I got a phone call when he said that. So I did not hear that exact quote, and I'll be honest, I haven't gone back and watched it yet to get the full sometimes when you read something or you see something, you find out later that maybe it was taken a little out of context, or maybe you didn't think it was as sincere. But as you guys that were there listening to live, do you feel sincere that like his plan right now is no matter what happens, is 2 fights and he's done?
I mean, I think it might be sincere. That doesn't mean it can't change in the future, but he kind of gave some reasons. He said his brain feels good. He doesn't want to retire with some issues there.
Fair.
He said he's missing all his kids' soccer games. And then the other thing he said was he has a lot of little business ventures that he would like to spend more time with. I know he does like some MMA promoting down in Carolina and stuff. So. I mean, he definitely has his reasons. It wasn't just some feeling that he had that was passing through. So it'll be interesting, man. Like you said, I think the champion. If we get there, that's 2 big wins away. But if he got there, I think maybe the pay-per-view points and stuff might twist his arm a little bit.
So you think if Brunson wins, they go to Sean Strickland?
I think that they would probably go to Brunson again. Just because I feel like Strickland's last performance, if he had gone out there and he had wrecked Jack Hermanson, and he had, nailed it on the microphone or whatever, it would have been one thing. But I just feel like that was kind of almost not a sidestep for Sean, but it certainly wasn't the step he needed to kind of get in an arm's reach of that title shot.
Brunson's got Ali Abdelaziz on the side too, right? He'll be certainly lobbying for him, trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
I still, it's funny, man. I still, and we haven't seen Dana since Sean Strickland fought, but I still wonder if there's got to be like a little bit of hesitation to put that guy on the big stage. And I know the UFC, especially Dana, doesn't care. Like, how many things have somebody said something and we go like, are you going to do something about that? And he's like, bro, this is fighting. People say weird stuff and mean stuff. But, like, I just think of the idea, and I'm not picking on Sean Strickland here or anything. Like, I like Sean. You know what I mean? He says some out there shit. You know what I mean? But I'm not trying to be mean to him. But I am saying, like, you think about, like, tomorrow, we're going to this press conference. And I get it. It's a press conference of fight fans. It's not exactly like everybody's going to be, oh, I'm so offended by what I've just heard. Even though we're going to watch these people go, fight in their underwear in a cage. But some of the stuff Sean says, man, I just think putting that on, like, the big stage with ESPN streaming it and the world watching, like, I feel like he's gotten kind of lucky in flying under the radar a little bit. And if he was on like a he's fighting Adesanya for the title, dude, I mean, the UFC has to think about that at least a little bit.
You would think if they really were worried about some of the stuff, they would have said something by now. You definitely think that he comes in there that the possibility that he's going to say something that's going to be really hard for them to walk back could possibly happen. But we've seen him fight other fights before this, like this past recent stretch where. This past recent stretch has just been bad. Like when he fought Uriah Hall. Mm-hmm. Like I don't remember feeling that week like it was like this, like what we've seen recently. Like it seemed like it was just like
he's turned it up to 11 a little bit lately, right?
He went to 11 and then broke the knob off and put pliers in there and found a way to squeeze it a little bit past 11. He's somewhere around the 12 and a half, 13 right now, and you would think that. I would hope that he has enough sense that there's certain areas where, regardless of what you say, that due to your upbringing, that you're okay saying things. Mm-hmm. I think in the light of, when Rogan went out and was getting in a lot of trouble for his past, UFC never said anything.
Right.
It could be very, very different if a fighter actually on a fight week of a major fight would slip up and say something. But if he didn't slip up and say anything back in Uriah Hall, but also, he wasn't doing like his current stick during the Uriah Hall. That's my main fear, is that he's going to try to ramp it up one bit further and take it to the next degree. And it's hard to walk that back, I mean, you could, at that point, it just becomes a point where it's like, all right, UFC, if you're not going to cut this guy, if he keeps pushing the thing, it's like, it's hard to not lose a little bit of respect in the organization. I get it. It is people. It's human cockfighting, as people like to say, but still there's a point, I mean, as much as, we want to give everybody the personal freedoms, at least we want to, do it within the means that you're not going to be oppressing a whole people by going out there and saying stupid shit. It's one thing to just be like, I hate motherfuckers that ain't me, and I want to kill a person, which is fucking bizarre to hear somebody say it and have an organization not say anything. It just makes you worry, but there's a part of me that thinks that Sean gets it, that he wouldn't push it to the point of where because I don't think he wants to get fired. I don't think he wants to get let go. I don't think he wants to be released. But I think he's having fun. But I think there's a side of him that's like, I wonder how far I can push it.
It just scared me when he said, "Now I can say things and they can't cut me." And
Exactly.
I was like, "Yeah, they can.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, they can in a heartbeat." Dude, and that's the thing is, it can be one thing, and that
Right.
dude says a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
And one thing we said today, and when we were discussing, like, because I thought it was when we were all together, but I think I was saying it to the thing, and we've talked about before. If there was ever a possibility to have one fighter that you wanted to make an example of and say, this is the line, you cannot say this, and you cut that person, Sean Strickland is a perfect person to be that candidate, because
Right.
while Sean is fighting at the top of the division, and
'Cause
here we are talking about
It
how
would show that you're willing to fight. You're willing to cut a ranked person
Right.
with an incredible career record. He checks all the boxes,
Checks all the
except
boxes.
the one that he's missing.
yeah.
He's not a superstar,
He's not a
right?
superstar.
So you could, as you said, you could absolutely cut him, not hurt yourself
not
too
hurt.
bad.
That's it.
You know, it's not like if
That's
Bellator.
it.
And again, I'm not trying to pick on Sean Strickland here. I like Sean Strickland. I like his
Oh,
fighting style. I like
He's fantastic. And there's a guilty side of me. I feel like a fucking hypocrite because here I am saying like, dude, you're crossing a line. But there's a part of me that's like, I chuckled at some of the shit he said,
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to be like, oh, you laugh at his jokes, you laugh at some of his jokes, but then here you are trying to say, oh, bro, don't say that. Am I a fucking hypocrite? Maybe I am.
we're not saying it'll offend us. We're just saying that it'll offend somebody
It's
that
going to
gets
offend somebody.
that's a sponsor, a broadcast partner,
That's
or
it.
somebody where they're like, hey, you got to get rid of this guy. And again, it's not like, oh, yeah, but then what are we going to do for pay-per-view buys this year?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And if it's already at the point, say if it's at the breaking point now where all the people that are what can be considered hardcores or the people that eventually caught on the niche are already on the bandwagon. If the idea is to grow the sport and to reach new people, is this how you're going to do it? By letting this sort of vocal nonsense, if you will, be what is amplified and representing your brand and these things. Like, you think that's the crowd you want to bring on? Because you're going to bring a certain, type of individual that's not going to be the mass media, that's not going to be the mass population.
Right.
As silly as it maybe is, and maybe the hardcore's like, I don't care that there's not a bunch of people that want to spend their time at the library and peace and love decide to want to watch us fight. We want the killers of the world that don't give a fuck about what you think. It's like, I think there's more people that are on that side than the others that are going to be amused by a lot of the jokes and the banter
It's
and
gonna be
whatever.
interesting, man. I tell you, if they, like I said, good for Sean if he can get paid. I think I'll be nervous. Like if I go to a press conference, I think I'll
Yeah.
literally just be nervous of like what's gonna happen here.
It just sucks because I love everything. I love the belief in himself and everything that he's doing to propel himself. He's on everybody's tongue. Everybody's talking about him. He's doing so in that sense. He's doing everything, but it's like you're doing it because we're questioning whether you went too far.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying like, oh, this is Colby's new character. Colby's jumping on this bandwagon or whatever. I didn't have as much like. And it's not even like it was like the cringe when you hear some of the Colby stuff. You're like, oh, that's a stretch, bro, because you know what he's like when he turns
Right.
it off. When you're hearing some of the stuff that's coming out of Sean, you're just like, wow, that's like, there's so much truth in it that he believes, and he's like, sounds real. Like I don't feel any bit of like when Sean's going out there and like saying this shit,
Like he's playing a character.
like he's playing a fucking character.
No.
And there's something like, I'm like, wow, that's kind of scary. Not that I'm like, oh, he's gonna go out and kill somebody, but like the anger and like the ignorance of some things and like thinking that nobody's being affected by when you say this shit, like. You can't walk back everything by, he expects to be able to walk everything back.
I just can't believe. I know the UFC hasn't publicly said anything, but I just can't imagine that those matchmaker meetings or whatever, like they haven't had like a little bit of a conversation. Like, are we sure about this guy? Like, do we trust that we can put him out there?
I mean, does it need to be ESPN or Disney that finally says, guys, here is this what's going on? Like, I know you say you can't control what a fighter is, but we're paying the bills. We want you to control what a fighter is. If we have an actor for a Disney movie that's going out on this tirade, they don't put him in movies.
That's a good point.
They don't put him in. They don't do whatever. It's just, I just feel like we're getting to the point. All it's going to take is for one or two moms to hear what's being said and write a letter to Mickey Mouse and saying, my kid, was watching this thing and they were lurking about the ESPN and then blah, 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 blah. And then somebody starts saying, and then you got the, Walt Disney and the Disney Corporation saying like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is unacceptable, and at that point, as much as Dana's like, they're fighters, there's nothing we can do. It's a fighting game.
It's a fight business. People say mean things all the time.
It's not your money. I mean, like, you're the president of the company, but it's not your company anymore. That's the sad part about it. I mean, like, they're letting them do their thing, but at some point there's going to be a breaking point.
And it's interesting because I don't know if we're allowed to bring up other programming on this. I know you guys have.
I'm not sure if I've ever heard of it or not. I'll have to see.
No, it's a different one.
Oh,
it's so Ariel has a podcast on Spotify that's been going on recently.
Who's this guy?
Through the Ringer. It's a guy named Ariel Bawani.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of him, but
yeah. I think he follows me on Twitter.
He had Tim Simpson on during Sean Strickland Fight Week, and he was saying that the UFC. Tim was saying that the UFC had a couple of conversations with Sean about toning it down, and he should kind of take a step back and stuff like that, leading into the last fight.
No shit.
So I'm interested. I don't know what kind of conversations that necessarily means.
And I'm wondering
hey man,
who
we can't put you in
is.
a title fight if you keep saying this or what. He said that was a big one.
Like,
the
it's
other
different
one,
if PR says it as opposed to Hunter.
But
or somebody.
I know, but I did notice, like, pre-fight, Oscar's hair was gay. Post-fight, Oscar's haircut was flamboyant. So, it did make me wonder, did somebody get a hold of
maybe they had him do some online training or something.
Say this.
They gave him one of those courses that we all have to take every year. It's like, it's that online learning time. They're like, Sean, sit down. You must pass 70% of this. He's like, on my fourth try, I passed the 70%. I remembered which ones to say, the right ones. I eventually got it right.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right, we'll see how the next couple months play out. Yeah.
I mean, that gives me hope. But like you said, I mean, like we were saying, like, it depends on who's making that talk.
Totally. It's risk reward,
I mean, like, it's one thing if it's like Nabi, the wonderful PR woman saying, hey, do this, and it's different than if it's Dana and then the powers that are actually controlling the money saying, you got to bring this back. But if he was trying to change,
and he did say suits were in his head. He did say suits were in his head in that fight.
I mean, so that's good. I mean, like, that gives me a lot of hope because I mean, for a while there, it just feels like it's like they're not paying attention.
One more fight. We don't care how you win. We just want to see how you act on fight week. Okay, like that's it. Like it can be the most boring, lay and pray fight ever, but we need to make sure you act appropriately during fight week. And if you do so, we'll give you a title shot.
I mean, it's like unprecedented. We've never seen somebody on the precipice of getting near a title shot doing something so flagrantly that could contesting and possibly take that away. There's a part of you that's like, bro, you're self-destructing the possibility of you maybe getting a title shot. And it's like, hey, are you getting a pay bump? Are they telling you if you get extra clicks or something, you get a pay bump or something? It's like, why go all in, unless
I mean, he certainly, because his profile has certainly raised, even if it's not necessarily for all the best reasons. So we'll see how everything plays out. 185 pounds. I guess the main card kicks off with Kyler Phillips versus Marcelo Rojo, Bobby Green versus Nasrat Haqparast.
Green.
Yeah, I gotta say, out of those, I mean, Kyler Phillips is a fun fighter. Obviously, coming off a very disappointing result last time out, but a great fight out against Marcelo Rojo. I mean, I think we know why this fight should be pretty much bonkers. I think that's why that one's on there. But Bobby Green, Bobby Green was great again today at the media day. He is honestly become one of my absolute favorites on the roster.
MMA Junkie super fan, Bobby Green.
He is, man. I love it, man. But he's honestly one of my favorites on the roster, man. He loves MMA Junkie. His fighting style is fun. He comes in there, he's going to drop his hands, he's going to roll his shoulder. Doesn't talk as much as he used to, but still does talk a little bit. He's going to have some fun. And then, of course, because I wasn't part of the official crew today, I was in the chat, and it was kind of funny when Nasrat Haqparast came in, like the plethora of Kelvin Gastelum jokes.
Mini Gastelum.
And it's so funny because I feel like it's played out at this point to call Nasrat Haqparast like baby Gastelum, but every time you see him, it is shockingly
in my head today. I said mini Gastelum. When I was like, oh yeah, it's like little Gastelum coming in.
I was like in the chat, I was like, man, that's a pretty funny accent Kelvin's using. Like, I like this, like this is like his impersonation of a different fighter. But that should be a fun fight as well, I think.
Yeah, that's a banger. I mean, that's one of those fights. I think again, card placement is key, and that's just kicking off the main card. I mean, that's just perfect.
I love it. I think this is going to be an entertaining pay-per-view.
Yes.
Like I said, even though I may have started off the top by saying I'm not as excited for the main event as I was the first time it happened, it's a high-quality fight. Anytime you have champion and anytime you have the two best fighters in the world in a division, even if you're pretty sure you think you know how it's going to go, it's still an honor to see the two best fighters in a weight class going at it, and that's what we got here. So it's a good main card. Prelims too. It's
not as stacked as the main card. I mean,
No.
there's some people that they're given a really good shot to be on a big platform, because some of these ones, they easily you look at the name, you're like, wow, you're gonna throw them on the big pay-per-view. It's like they look like it should be fight night, but
the prelims are not as tough. I will say this. Unabashed, admitted Andre Arlovski homer. I'm an Andre Arlovski homer.
I think he was looking for you today.
Was he? No, I felt bad. I wasn't there, man. I know he's looking for me.
I have to say, we had a lot of people hold court today. We had Israel Adesanya hold court, Derek Lewis held court, Bobby Green held court, but Jared Vandera had like his stand-up comedy set going for that.
Jared Vandera was
He was
funny.
fired up.
Really good.
First of all, I will say he said he was fangirling out. I don't know why he wasn't fanboying out, but
Yeah.
he was fangirling out that he was fighting Andre Arlovski, which I thought was pretty funny.
I guess we didn't do our job and call him out on that.
Yeah, man.
Certainly, sir, you meant you were fanboying out, right? Is there
Should
something?
have called him out.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny, and I love the fact that he said he shaved his beard. Right? He's like, I'm not going up against that beard. That's epic. You know?
It was funny
He
too.
was awesome.
You were saying how you kind of felt bad that you snickered at Sean Strickland's comments.
Yeah.
You know, I was the only one that laughed in the media room when he said he was raising his daughter and she was being a brat and she's turning into Sean Strickland.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was funny.
I thought that was awesome.
I actually typed in the chat at that point. I was like, that is when you know you have failed as a father. No offense, Jared. That was pretty funny.
He was good. And every time he gets more, he opens up more and more, and it's like I remember thinking last time I was like, wow, this guy is kind of funny, but he wasn't as on point. Like this was, like you said, it was a comedy show. Like
he's always silly, right? Because he gets up on the scale and does like that little wave.
Yeah.
Like he's got a character. I think we saw the character more than ever today.
I feel like this is going to sound bad. Kind of, I'm not trying to be offensive, but when he started, I thought he was, not the most interesting cat in the world, and then he became kind of so unassuming that it became super intriguing.
Right.
And now he's swinging around where he's like you said, opening up, and it was funny today.
And it's cool. Like I love the idea. I mean, we hear guys all the time. I've been watching this guy fight since I started. But I'm gonna go out there. I'm not gonna treat him any differently when we get in the cage. It's gonna be this, and this. It was kind of refreshing to hear the person just be like, yeah, I was fangirling out. Like, it's Andre Arlovski. I'm like, wow, when I saw that name, and I was just like, holy cow. And he didn't drop. He didn't try to. He wasn't like, oh, I need now to sound, like, oh, I'm this and that. He just embraced it, and there was something fun about just the humbleness of it and just the fun playfulness of it. But yeah, every time, I think he gets better every time we see him. His interviews up there get better and better and funnier and funnier.
And it's funny, because I was thinking about Andre Arlovski. Like, obviously, me personally, I'm super excited. I'm super excited for him. Now, he's 4-1 in his last 5, so it's not like they're just having him just because. Now, you can say, well, it's not necessarily winning over high-level guys. He's winning decisions. He's not finishing fights. And I get all that. But I think there's a generation of fans that probably just doesn't understand how big of a deal Andre Arlovski was. You know what I mean? There was a time where he was kind of like among the poster childs of the organization. I mean, I was in my reasons to watch thing. I remember a time when, the casuals that didn't really know the sport, kind of like how there was a generation that would like, hey, tell me about that Irish kid, when Conor was first coming up. Like, what's that guy? But it was like, that dude with the fangs. You know what I mean? Andre was that dude with the fangs. And I don't know, man. I can understand if you're a newer fan of the sport, how maybe you're like, why do they love this old 43-year-old heavyweight like so much? I don't understand. But, dude, I mean, this dude's been in the UFC for 20 years. I mean, obviously he left for a while and came back, but he debuted for the UFC 20 years ago and still going at it. And, I mean, again, like I said, I'm an unabashed homer, but he's hilarious behind the scenes, dude. He's a prankster.
His mouth guard is iconic.
Oh, yeah. His career resurgence is, like, not talked about enough. Yeah. He was, like, gone. He was getting knocked out. Or I think
people
he got
were like,
rocked
dude,
by Tim Sylvia.
You got to retire. Like, what are you doing? And that was, like, 10 years ago.
Yeah. And he's still here. Yeah.
It's crazy. So I'm excited to see him. I don't think he's, necessarily hanging it up anytime soon, but he can't keep doing it forever. So I'm excited to see Andre Arlovski. And then, of course, the retirement fight of Roxanne Modafferi. Again, another one that I'll say that I'm personally homing for as well. Obviously, a lot of people know that she was one of my kids' jiu-jitsu coaches, so I have definitely a close bond. I mean, when somebody's out there teaching your kid and imparting wisdom and being a leader, like, you just can't help but have some affection for them, and she was obviously her passion for it. But I know that that's not something that I speak alone in, man. It's just such a unique character, and I thought. Honestly, I clipped it out and put it on my Instagram, even though I now found out that Cold Coffee's probably going to flag it and strike it and have it take it down. But,
That's right.
But the clip of Israel
I
Adesanya.
don't remember getting that permission request.
The clip of Israel Adesanya where I think it was Jose Youngs asked, Israel about Roxanne. Obviously, they share a love for anime.
Yeah.
And I wasn't
That was
sure.
another answer that was really cool.
Oh my God, I wasn't
very
sure.
good.
I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be.
Yeah.
How familiar is he? Okay, she likes anime, but how familiar are you really with her career? And then he says, we shared a locker room. She's a gem. She's, and it is so true because it sounds like an insult when you say it, and it is kind of, you know what I mean. But it's so true when he's like, look, it's it's not like she has any like athletic gifts or and when you say that like she's not the most gifted athlete, like I'm just gonna say like. I don't think she's athletic at all. You know what I mean? But that just makes it all the more remarkable that she's been doing it this long and that she had that kind of willpower, that kind of drive, that kind add in the fact that she has no real natural athleticism, that she's half blind. You know what I mean?
Every time I watch her fight and she has her glasses off, I'm like, how much? I wish I could see.
You can see her
what it actually looks like.
Because you can see her just like squinting, like trying to see her opponent. Like what?
It's amazing. It's amazing. But obviously, I mean, I feel like we've talked about it a ton of times. Like she gets cleared, so she knows that she passes whatever the vision test is. I don't know if that's just a matter of how many fingers do I have up right in front of your eyeballs. But every time when you look at her, I'm like, how is she able to even do what she does?
Yeah.
Because she has that look on her face like, I can't see somebody coming at me. But then she goes out there and does it over and over and over. One of the best things I thought, and me and the young buck here were talking about it.
Did you just forget my name?
Huh? No. I had a burp that was like having an issue coming out.
This guy right here. What's his
this dude.
My pal, buddy over here.
What's your name again? You're the new guy.
This is brought to you by La Adelita.
But we talked about how one of the things that she mentioned was like she was getting the little headaches after like sparring. She was starting to get like the sparks in her head and these signs that we are wondering, me and this guy here,
my
buddy, we're wondering like how many fighters get that feeling, but then overlook it and think like, oh, whatever, it's just a tough day at the thing, I'm just gonna fight through it. I'm gonna fight through it. But she's smart enough to say, hey, this is not normal. This is something different, and so the fact that she was recognizing it. I almost want to just be like, you should be a beacon and go out to others and say, like, this is when I realized this was the time I needed to make the decision that was smart for me, realizing that you're not firing at the right levels, but also if your body is giving you signals like, hey, maybe this isn't so good for us anymore. I liked how she switched up the training. She said she was wearing the headgear, but then the headgear was causing other issues that was frustrating her because they were grabbing onto it when they got down and started grappling or whatever. But that's just another sign of she is always, every time, even when I used to watch her and when she was with Invicta and other times when she was floating around from different organizations, there's always some gem that she releases. She's always been sharp as attack, and she just says these things, and how can you not love her? And I as an anime lover, love that side of her. Mm-hmm. The fact that she says her favorite parts and the things that she's going to miss the most is the weigh-ins, because she gets to have that little bit of personality and go out and have fun with it, she's a gem, man. I mean, like, hopefully she's one of the ones that after the fact, that people don't realize what Roxy was able to kind of bring to the sport, let alone what she's been doing for so long, but just bringing that casual flair to things, about it doesn't matter if you look weird or if you look different. If you believe in yourself and you go out and do stuff, you can do anything that you want to do. And if somebody thinks what you're doing is weird, who cares? I enjoy it. I'm going to go out there and do it. I mean, and she just waves that flag, and it's fantastic. So like when that's gone, there's going to be a void that somebody else needs to try to pick up, because not everybody is Roxanne.
No.
She might not be, like you said, the most gifted, the most athletic fighter, but what she brings is different than what other fighters are doing.
But that's why I think too what makes her such an effective coach, right? And then one of the reasons I really was happy to bring my son there to learn from her is just like, it's like some of the greatest athletes aren't great coaches, you know what I mean? Because like Michael Jordan, like, well, just do this. Like, well, coach, I can't do that. You know what I mean? But like, she has had to do everything perfectly, like technically perfect, and learn how to do it. And that's the only way she's been able to have any. I'm telling you right now. So kind of what I've done with my son. So my son has gone to 4 different gyms. But as a kid, what I wanted him to do was I wanted to learn.
So crazy. How old is he now?
He's 9.
And he's like, he's on his 4th gym.
He is. So well, he started. So he
his
started
4th major gym.
He started at Extreme Couture because like I really wanted to learn like wrestling base.
Not
right?
your normal gym.
And then he wanted to learn to try a gi. And so at that point,
where'd he go for that one?
Syndicate, because at that point I was like, Roxy would be an amazing coach.
Yeah, Team
and
Syndicate.
then we did Syndicate for about a year, and I was like, all right, now I want to take you to a hardcore jiu-jitsu gym.
Oh yeah, is that just another little gym?
Drysdale's.
Oh, Drysdale's.
So he could try like hardcore, like just new age jiu-jitsu. And then now he's at American Top Team Nevada because
another small one,
small little school under Alex Davis, because Alex does.
What's he gonna do when he turns 10?
Alex does a more like judo based program. So basically, I wanted to try like a year at all these places, but I will say this. And we've had amazing coaches at all those places.
Is he going down to
obviously.
Coconut Creek, and when he turns 10,
I mean, we may go
down
you go to the flagship sometimes just to check in.
Dude, that's so impressive. That's so awesome.
It is pretty crazy to think about where he's trained. And he thinks it's normal. But the thing is, I will say this though, like, and we've had some amazing coaches, some amazing instruction, but Roxy still has like a special place in his heart, you know what I mean? Because she's like a big kid, and like she's so amazing, and I do hope that he'll train under her again. And look, I think she's going to do fine. I think she'll remain in jiu-jitsu. I know she kind of alluded to some future plans today, but didn't say what it was.
She didn't want to say what it was.
I'm sure she'll definitely be instructing. I don't know if maybe she's thinking about opening her own school. Maybe that's what she's alluding to. I don't know this.
That could be something.
Maybe that's something she could do. Have her own business.
I remember when we've done stuff at Syndicate, watching her control like her classic kids, they were eating out of the palms of her hands.
I'm just telling you, if you have a kid in Las Vegas, take them to Syndicate right now, or if she opens her own gym, she is phenomenal.
It's amazing to watch.
She's amazing. She is super special. And it made me think, because I was thinking about retiring, obviously, because she they don't publicly release salaries anymore, but when they were publicly releasing salaries, she's been around so long that she makes pretty good money. Not Conor McGregor money, but decent enough. But it's so funny. I don't know if you guys saw this the other day. She posted a picture of her with a car. She bought a new car. But it's not a new car. She said, my dear Corolla broke down, which if you've ever seen her car parked outside Syndicate, like that had to be like a 1980s Corolla.
That's
dude.
awesome.
Like she put hundreds of thousands of miles on this thing. Yeah. But so she said, my dear Corolla broke down, so I ended up getting a 2015 Honda Civic. I'm sad, but I like my new car. And it stuck out to me because I was like, well, it's new to you, I guess, but it's a 7-year-old car.
Yeah.
But that's how, like, just she's frugal, she's smart, you know what I mean? She's not out wasting money. So I'm sure, like, all the money that she's made in her career, I bet she's got a ton of it.
That car's going to last her for like the next 20 years.
Oh, she'll drive this thing for 20 years, man. But I don't know. I put that clip on my Instagram because I thought it was so cool that Adasanya had such, kind of glowing things to say about it. And it's another one, too. It reminds me in a lot of ways of like Andre Arlovski, like how he just said that I bet there's a portion of the population that doesn't understand why there's such passion and love for Andre Arlovski. I bet there's a real portion of the population that doesn't understand why there's such love. And you've seen it, right? I know Sean Al-Shadi put out a big piece.
That was phenomenal.
Danny Segura obviously did.
Even the media. I mean, like, it's across the board. Like, if you wonder why all the reporters are writing about it, I mean, there's a reason. Like, she resonates across to everybody. I mean, she's fantastic.
Yeah. And some of those
fantastic.
Some of the takes that were in peeling back the curtain here, just about me, making everything about me. But
thanks, guy.
My biggest, being my age, being 26, there's a lot about MMA history that I did not live through. You know what I mean? When I was in kindergarten, first grade, spoiler alert, I was not watching the UFC or following it.
I graduated college,
local MMA or whatever. Yeah, true. So for me, when it comes to Arlovski, when it comes to her, like, I really have to read things that really contextualize the situation. I can memorize wins and loss records and who won titles, but it doesn't really give me the full picture. And that thing with that Sean wrote, I think some of the takes there were just like, it was such a good, for me, I knew her from her UFC, I knew her from her Invicta days, but to kind of get that whole picture of who she was really phenomenal. Hearing like her old promoter saying he brought her in and picked her up from the airport and he thought it was, who's Harry Potter butter girl. Like I'm gonna take her, you know, I'm gonna take her in, and she's gonna get destroyed, you know, and
so
everybody's
awesome.
gonna hate me because I had this girl get beat up, and then she goes in there and beats who at the time everybody thought was the best female in the United States. So it was a good story, and even people like Juliana Pena, right, who's kind of got a harder shell, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't think she necessarily has a ton of female fighter friends in the UFC, like, you know. She was saying Roxanne was the only one that trusted her on the whole show. The rest of the cast didn't like her because she had a relationship with Misha Tate, who was the opposing coach, and everybody thought she was getting a privilege, and Roxanne was the only one that was there to cut weight with her and stuff. So it's crazy that she can come across generations, across all sorts of people, cultures, you know, age groups, whatever, and kind of have that impact on everyone.
I mean, does he say that? He's like, if you can't like Roxanne, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Even though he phrased it a little differently, but he's like,
F you.
F you,
yeah. Like, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
If you don't like Roxanne, F you. I actually used that in my my piece on the
so
reasons
awesome.
to watch, man. So we'll miss her being in the UFC. And listen, man, and I said it too in my preview piece. It's true, like they're not giving her any favors, man. They're not giving her any favors on the way out the door. But honestly, like, it's crazy, but like I'm sure that's exactly what she wants. You know what I mean? She doesn't want hey, don't give me somebody you think I'm supposed to beat. Like, give me the hardest challenge you can, because that's what I'm here to do. Like, that's literally who she is as a person. It's a tough one. I mean, you know, luckily our staff picks aren't public on that. I would probably have to go with Casey O'Neill, unfortunately, if I'm being honest about the pick that I would make. But no question, the heart will be for Roxanne Modafferi, man. So it's she is a special person, man.
Yeah.
I'm sad to see that she's going out, but it sounds like you said, man, she's
got
getting
some
out the
things in
right
the works.
time, and she's got some things in the works. And
the
she's
right time and with some things in the works, which is the best part. I mean, I love the fact now it seems like fighters are doing the right things. I mean, like, they're setting themselves forward, you know, and hopefully she's a good example for what people should do. I mean, like, when your body's giving you one thing and you have stuff set up, get out.
Yep.
You know, get out.
Listen, as far as the rest of the prelims, Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell, I think is a fight that's
should be a
getting
good
no
fight.
love whatsoever. That actually is meaning to be. They're both coming off losses. It's been rescheduled a bunch of times. I'm sure what's going on at the top of the flyweight division, knowing that the belt is tied up and there's plenty of contenders in their weight. Maybe that's why there's not as much buzz about this. I don't know. This, to me, is a very meaningful fight that's not maybe necessarily getting the love that it deserves.
That could have been a main card fight.
To be honest with you, I was a little surprised that one
could've been
wasn't on the main card.
easily.
Yeah, I was a
Easily.
little surprised that wasn't on the main card.
Yep.
Max McGrishin versus William Knight rounds out the ESPN prelims. And, of course, when you go down to ESPN Plus, I just ask you, Nolan, if there's anything that kind of stands out to you. I mean, you got Ronnie Lawrence versus Mana Martinez, which I know a lot of people are kind of high on. Alexander Hernandez, Renato Moicano, that's a little bit of an oddly placed one, too.
It's
Like,
buried down there.
really
That could
early
be
in
a
the
main
night.
card fight.
I think that's going to be an absolute banger. I know Alexander Hernandez gets a level of hate. I'll be honest, I find him an incredibly intriguing character. I mean, some of the stuff he says is so out there that I just love it. But listen, Renato Moicano had some slip-ups, but the slip-ups have been coming against some top-level guys.
Yeah.
Fabio Charant versus Carlos Ulberg. Of course, Carlos Ulberg, one of the Adesanya teammates, is on the prelims. AJ Dobson, the undefeated stud that looks like a beast. I'm high on him. I'm high to see what he does in his debut against Jacob Malkoun. Douglas Silva de Andrade against Sergey Morozov is a couple of veterans there. And then Jeremiah Wells against Blood Diamond, which I think is amazing that the UFC has agreed that, like, he's just going to be Blood Diamond. Like, there is no official anything calling him Mike Mateta, or however you say his last name. Anyway, he's just Blood Diamond.
A 3-0 fighter.
3-0, but kickboxing is, kickboxing history as well.
True, but there's like multiple. There's another fighter that's like 3-1, I think, or something, which is interesting. Like, I mean, when you look at the Contender Series, that the threshold used to be 6 wins.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing guys in, with connections, with history, whether it be the other ones. It does help.
How about the fact that Adesanya said he's going to show up for Blood Diamond's fight and then go back home and
The
then
way
come back to the arena?
Adesanya was talking about him, I am so intrigued to watch him fight, because I mean, he literally was like, "This is the cat that I can't wait to hear what the commentators are going to say about how this guy fights." And then I was like, I want to see it now. I'm
excited to see what happens.
By it.
It feels like if he doesn't come in there and just have like a scintillating knockout, you're going to be like, what was
You're
that?
like, Izzy, you're full of it.
And listen, Jeremiah Wells, I've seen firsthand. The man can crack. Like, if he catches you, things will happen. So
but
Nolan,
it's hard to crack. You can't crack a diamond.
Hard to crack a Blood Diamond.
Diamonds, man. That's a diamond.
See what you did there.
But
Nolan, any of those stand out to me? I know you're always constantly kind of got your eyes on prospects and kind of newcomers and that sort of thing. So what about these prelims do you have your eyes on?
I mean, I really like the Martinez versus Ronnie Lawrence fight. Ronnie Lawrence, he kind of gives off. There's a category of fighters who I think compete on Contender Series, and they're not necessarily given the respect they deserve because they don't go out there and get a head kick or a spinning wheel kick. And like, there's guys that have been great from that show. That some of the best guys on that have competed on that show weren't even signed, because of those performances. You got like guys like Dan Ige, Daniel Rodriguez. Those are good fighters. And I kind of put Ronnie Lawrence in that same category. He did, I believe, get a contract straight off the show, but it was a decision. It was just, but a lot of the things you see, he just looks so well-rounded and so good, as I'm pouring cold coffee with my Ronnie Lawrence breakdown. That's kind of mine. And mine and Martinez,
that's early morning
very
media
exciting.
Day. That's not you, guy.
Very exciting. And see, here's the kind of background to this as
That's
well.
you, new guy.
When I used to do Twitter mailbag, and I would be like talking about prospects and stuff, and Kenny would always message me they didn't have B-roll, and like,
I was like, who is
that's
this?
now I
Who
get to
is
see what
this
happens
dude?
in person.
Who is this dude?
Yeah. But anyways, that's one of the fights, and then the other one too. Anytime William Knight's in a fight, it doesn't. MMA sometimes doesn't
William
make
Knight's
sense
awesome.
in general, but like his fights in particular make no sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like just some of the positions, like I'm just gonna stand up from like while the guy's mounting me. You know what I mean?
not?
So I think him and Maxime Grishin, who's gonna be a lot, I would assume, taller.
So,
and
dude, it's funny you say that, right? Because I was like, in my kind of thing, in my reasons to watch thing, I was going to say something about how, like, it's going to look weird. They're listed as 6'3" and 5'10".
Yeah.
There's no way. I feel like Grisham's taller than 6'3", and I feel like Knight's shorter than 5'10". I mean, 5 inches is pretty significant.
Yeah.
That's what she said. But but I feel like it's in my head.
It's all how you use the 5 inches, though.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like the visual is going to be a little bit more striking than it seems.
But
on
Knight
paper.
is so jacked,
Yeah.
man. Like, I mean, you just like, you don't. That's not a guy you call short. You never say that unless you're like in this 2 states away and you're like, yeah, that dude's short. And he's like, what? He flexed that big ass pec and it knocks you out.
Like I'm looking in the mirror every time I see him.
Every
man. I'm just like,
time.
wow, is that a photo?
Every
Is that a
time.
Photoshop of me right there? What is going on?
But yeah, he's an impressive dude, man. That somebody's gonna get knocked out on that one.
Cold Coffee, anything else stand out to you? I know you're not much of the prospect breakdown, but is
Yeah,
it all
no,
about
I mean-
Blood Diamond for you?
If he starts going on about Sergey Morozov.
Yeah. Well, Sergey Morozov, I mean, he really's got a tough, coming out. No. And no, Blood Diamond does it, and I mean, besides that, no, I think we had to talk about Prez and Chanel is fucking. I think that one is going to be a fun. It's going to be fun. But no, I mean, overall, I think there's pockets in the prelims. I think there's some of the fights that, you're going to wait for the, like I'll sit here waiting for Hernandez and Moicano, but I'll watch the Charant fight and be like, wow, that was fantastic. But no, they need to have some more ladies on this card, though. That's the only thing that's lacking.
It's a 15-fight card, by the way. I feel like they booked these 15-fight cards.
You could tell by that long-ass media day today. We
like
didn't even have everybody.
I feel like they booked the 15-fight cards like expecting stuff to
people
fall
to
off,
drop
and luckily that's those days are over. Knocking on synthetic wood once again. Hopefully we're okay. Anyway, all right, listen, to UFC 271, I think it's going to not good. I do want to give a quick shout-out to Joe from H-Town, who was kind enough to pick me up from the airport yesterday because, obviously, again, I'm not on the corporate account this week, so every little bit of money I could save is nice, and it was good of him to pick me up. And when Joe from H-Town picks you up, not only does he pick you up and provide you transportation,
What else does he do?
he brings some frosty beverages as well. You know what I'm saying?
He
He's like,
did not.
He's like, not only am I going to give you a ride, but I'm going to stop by with a cooler and we're going to have a couple cocktails.
Yes,
and
he
we did
did.
that. So shout out to Joe from H-Town. That was awesome. If you like what you listen to, I should have said earlier, please patreon.com/MMA Roadshow. We would appreciate that.
Yes.
Leave us some feedback on iTunes or wherever you listen.
Yeah, you keep giving us Patreon. We can pay this new guy here, and I'll remember his name next time.
Buddy.
Buddy.
Yeah.
I call everybody Buddy. Buddy's a term of
Special
affection.
shout out. Special shout out to this guy we just found on the street who actually happens to know.
Here
He
I
sounds
was-
familiar. He sounds familiar.
And here
though.
I was thinking I was special that you called me Buddy, and you call everybody
Oh,
Buddy.
sorry.
Yeah.
Buddy is like my
Yeah.
term of endearment.
Yeah.
It's so good to be on the road again. 8 months is insane.
To be on the El Camino.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again. We'll see. I don't know. Well, I guess the next pay-per-view is Vegas, and then we don't know April yet, do we?
Jacksonville.
Oh, April's Jacksonville, right? May is the one we don't know where
Yeah.
it's going to be
Correct,
yet.
yeah.
We just got to keep coming to Houston. If people don't know, COVID doesn't exist in Houston. You can tell by because no one's wearing masks. And
Doesn't
nobody
exist in
cares.
Jacksonville either, so
Yeah,
it's
it
good.
doesn't exist in Jacksonville. Well, it's good. We're good.
We'll see how it plays out. In the meantime, thanks for listening.